All right. Well, here we are. Welcome, everybody. If you're listening to us on our podcast, welcome to The Bigger Life. If you're watching this on YouTube, that's awesome too. Welcome. We have Beth Imhoff, who I know her as Bethany Fuchs from way back in the day growing up. And, fast forward here, we're in real estate world. So awesome to connect. We also have Kelsey Wozniak, my wife and partner in crime. Man, oh man, we have so many things to cover. But before we get anywhere, I want to give Beth the opportunity to introduce herself. Let us know a little bit what you do, where you're at. Ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Beth Imhoff. I'm a senior loan officer with Academy Mortgage. I am across the country from the fabulous Kelsey and Andy. I'm in the Portland, Oregon metro area. I'm licensed in a couple states, so California, Oregon, Washington, and Arizona now. But yeah, I've been in the mortgage business for a number of years and really love it. It's just has my heart. I think you have to love this business to do it day in, day out, because it can be kind of tough. But yeah, super excited to be here with my old high school friend Andy and meeting Kelsey and doing a podcast.
Right. Man, it's so wild where different things take you. Like literally the last memory I have is like musical land. I feel like we're in so many different musicals together. And now it's like, oh, the next time we're actually connecting is about real estate like 15 years later. So
yeah, as like grown adults with
oh
jobs,
my goodness.
and you have kids and I have fur babies and the whole 9 yards. So
right. Oh man, it's so good. Well, without further ado, I mean, let's kind of get into this, right? So we were talking a little bit ago, and it's no lie that real estate trends kind of start west and slowly kind of matriculate across the US, and then they end up here. Could you just give us, like, as Kelsey and I, as agents in the business actively selling, could you give us a little bit of a picture of kind of what you're seeing out there, maybe where things have, maybe like a COVID picture, right? Because I feel like so many things have fast forwarded in the past 24 months. Maybe where things had been, what the norm used to be, and kind of where we're at now, and just kind of show how quick things have really kind of picked up pace.
Yeah, totally. Like, talk about a whirlwind, right? Like pre-COVID, I can't even like remember what that was like. But yeah, I mean, at the beginning of COVID, when rates dropped, obviously the industry as a whole like took a little pause for a couple weeks to see where we would be, and then everything accelerated and we were all working like mad. And I started to notice, since I do loans in California and you just have a lot of movement out here among the West Coast states, some things that people were doing to compete and make a really competitive offer in that market. So one of them was the appraisal gap coverage. Like, you're not going to get your offer accepted unless you offer to, make up the difference if the appraisal comes in short. So that was one that the Portland market saw that, and for at least a year solid now, it's something that has been in, I think, almost every single accepted offer that I've seen. And so it does, it makes it pretty darn competitive, especially for those first-time home buyers. Like, that's my bread and butter. That is who I love. That's what lights me up, is helping those people. Because I came into the industry after a really bad experience with my first home loan. So I took that to heart and ran with it. But yeah, like that appraisal gap thing, it's just wild. And it's, I would say, again, almost every single successful offer that I see, because to then start the loan process has that appraisal gap as part of that component.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's something that, was pretty well new, I guess, maybe new to me recently. And recent, I say maybe a year or so. But Kelsey, so I guess a little bit for you and the people listening or watching this, the way that Kelsey and I run our business is I work 100% with our buyers, and Kelsey works 100% with the list side and our sellers. So I think she can speak a little bit more to like kind of offers she's been seeing in, and kind of give us that almost 2-year, 18-month kind of scope as well.
Yeah. And it's been interesting, I think, to kind of divide the business that way, because I am seeing it from the listing side. So similar to you seeing it from the lender side of things, you're seeing the accepted offers, and I'm seeing all of the different offers, which is really cool, because what I tell, Andy or any of our buyers that I do have the conversation with is like, we are we're going to be changing things. You know, if I see something that comes in on an offer that I'm like, that's a great idea, let's implement this, you know, we get to see that firsthand, which is cool. But I would say for us, definitely the appraisal gap thing has been huge. We've seen a lot of waived inspections, you know, and that's something that is terrifying, you know, all at the same time. But I've just been seeing some crazy things just kind of start to trickle through, even just in the last couple of months, like since the holidays. Like, it's weird how even just since the beginning of the year to right now, I'm seeing some, you know, some more of a frenzy than what we had before, which is, you know, I didn't think that it could get crazier, but it has. But on our side of things, you know, we've seen the appraisal gaps, the waived inspections, or even like if they do have inspections on them, how are they writing in the clause for inspections to say that it's for their knowledge only, and putting dollar amounts on things, you know, for structural or safety items, basically just saying that this is as is. We just want to know for sure that there's not a major structural or safety thing going on with the house, which is, we've been using that a lot with our clients, because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that they're still protected with the home inspection, but still able to compete with someone who is waiving their inspections. So, you know, some of the other crazy little things that you can do that I've seen, I haven't seen it a ton, but when I see it, I'm like, smart. It's really smart. Is buyers writing in that they will actually cover the seller's closing costs. And I think that's something that is kind of coming over from the West Coast to here.
Yeah, that's a huge one. Yeah, that's the California market making its way across the country, I think.
Crazy. Yeah. Well, and it's wild because it's like, it's for so long, I think it was the opposite, where buyers were asking the sellers to pay their closing costs. And now, because it's, you know, in a seller's market, and it's, you know, I feel like the peak of the craziness, like that's what it is. And that guarantees your seller more money in their pocket above the appraisal, you know, like that's guaranteed money, because you can offer the appraisal gap, or you can guarantee that they're no matter what going to get over their asking price or over your offer price, you know? So it's just such a smart, it's a different way of writing the offer. I've used that with, now Andy said that I do 100% sellers. He does 100% buyers. I'm going to correct him on that, because I actually work our simultaneous closings or our buyer seller combinations. So I'm still with buyers, you know, to some extent on that side. He's
That's
laughing.
fair.
He's like,
That's fair. All right.
And sometimes that can be complicated, you know, in and of itself, just because of contingencies and whatnot, having to write in, you know, house sale contingency if you can. But what was I going with that? I don't remember where I was going with that.
I don't know, but one of the tips and tricks that we just came across recently, I forget where you and I heard it from, Kelsey, the tax thing, where buyers were willing to pay.
Yeah, so they're willing to pay the seller's taxes, their prorated taxes for the property. So, you know, you have to look at what that tax bill is going to be, because it might be, you know, $5,000, you know, $2,000 or $800, just depending on what those taxes are. So getting that number from the title company, or honestly, even from the lender, just to see exactly what that's going to look like, because, you know, that's an amount for sure that's back in their pocket. But I used it for a VA buyer. That's what I did recently. And we've had so many struggles with sellers and agents not being educated on a VA home loan and what that buyer, you know, they've paid their price, you know, they do have skin in the game. And unfortunately, I feel like they are, you know, seen as not as qualified as a conventional buyer or a cash buyer because of the 0% down. So we did this where the seller or the buyer paid towards the seller's taxes to make up for the difference that the seller then has to pay for the VA closing costs. So it's $1,000, nothing crazy, but it's just something to kind of set yourself over the edge when you know you're competing against conventional, you know, buyers and offers coming in. So
yeah, I love that idea. I've actually started doing like a VA cover letter, you know, from the lender, like, here's the product. It's not scary. These people, you know, like, they gave their service, they gave their time, like, you know, let's give them the fair shot and have a level playing field, because they earned this right. And it's a great loan product.
That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like with so many of these things, when it comes to like the tips and tricks that we are able to use, at least on our side, when putting an offer together or talking to the client, I feel like the thing that we always have to keep remember is think outside of your local market, right? We have so many freaking tips and tricks that we can use and different tools that we can use. But I feel like so often we get into a rut of, and not a rut in a bad way, but a rut in just kind of, this is what I'm used to doing. It's almost a routine. Like, all right, it's time to write an offer. They're conventional. We're going to go this high over. We're going to just put these things in. And we're not thinking about situationally, Like, how can I really give these guys the best shot at getting this house? And I do think it is national. Like nationally, we all have access to the exact same tips and tricks. It's just how willing are you, the agent? And in that situation, how willing are you to kind of maybe get pushed outside your comfort zone? Maybe raise your hand to somebody else and say, hey, can you just give me some advice on how to win this one?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things I love about social media. I mean, say what you will about it, there's a lot of downsides, but like Andy, we reconnected through social media, right?
For sure.
Like,
Yep.
I saw what you were doing, you saw what I was doing, and it's like, hey, this is so cool. Like, and I think that that's just going to become more and more of a thing. I think Andy, I shared with you when we were talking the other day, like I've been focusing on my Instagram presence because with COVID, people might not be going back to the office as much and standing around the water cooler and talking about, oh, I'm getting a refi and my loan officer is great. Or like, we're getting pre-approved and she's held our hand through everything. So those connections may not be happening as much as we would all like to, hope that they will come back to. And so for me, that's why like being on the Instagram game is so important. Like showing people what you do, which you guys obviously do an awesome job of, bravo. I'm always like gleaning ideas from your Instagram. But, showing them what you do, showing them you're enthusiastic about it and that you're going to be their advocate every step of the way is super important.
Man, you bring up social media and I feel like that is Kelsey's sweet spot for sure. She has coached so many people here locally on social media. Mm-hmm. She has coached me even when I come kicking and screaming and say social media is the stupidest thing in the world. I want no part of it. It's the devil. Get out of here. I mean, then I'm always like, all right, shut up.
Suck it
Get
up.
out of your own way.
Yep.
Like, so Kels, go. Social media.
No, I mean, and I think that that's just a great little side topic for sure. It's one of those things where I think so many people, we're obviously speaking to probably a realtor audience here. So many people look at it or they look at something in their business like, I just don't like it. I don't want to do it. I'm not on it. I don't want my information to be out there in the public. Get over it. Like that is the way of the future. Your information is out there. Your information is out there regardless if you want it to be or not. And it's learning how to, turn that into a business opportunity and not even a business opportunity. Like I don't personally look at it like I'm doing this to get leads. I'm doing this to build relationships. And Beth, like you were saying, like the water cooler chat has kind of gone away so it's like, how can you create that through social media, and like, that's where the bread and butter is. It's spending the time to connect with people and comment on their things, like their things, build that relationship with them, to the point where, when they do, talk to someone, they're going to automatically think of you because you are so front of mind with that. So yeah, I think it's just a huge opportunity. And I think that I'm not saying that I love doing it all the time, my biggest thing, like, I love that you're doing so many videos. I'm like, gosh, I've got to do these videos. I've got to get on this and do this. There's always something else, another layer you want to add in, but it's a part of your work. It is free. It is marketing, free advertising. Like it is like,
hey, I said it the other day, wanting to is not a prerequisite. I can't say that word. I can't say that word. Wanting to is not a prerequisite to needing to.
Right.
Man, there are some words that like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, you can't say.
That's one of them.
They just get you. Man, you got to get over it because you're a podcaster now. So, you're going to be famous. So,
yeah, right. No, everyone's going to have a list of the words Andy Wozniak cannot say.
It's so funny.
Let's make a hashtag out of it. I love it.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. I love this. Yeah. Roasting Andy.
That's
I know. Great. But like, no, Kelsey, I think you bring up a great point. And like both of you, it's like, I want to tell everybody who's listening to this or watching this or whatever, like, people on this call have good social media presence and kind of hate having to do social media. So like, because when I look at, an agent or another lender in my market and I'm like, man, they kill it. They must love doing social media. I can't do that because I hate doing social media. It's like, no, they probably hate it too.
Right.
But they're doing it, and it's helping the public know them. It's helping make connections. It's helping support other people in your community, like I'm sure that you have those referral partners that you love. I have this CPA, he's a rock star. So like, if I even hear somebody in the grocery store say that they need a CPA, I'm like, oh, let me give you this guy's info. I love him. Right. I mean, that's a really cool connection to make. And you could be getting that person who you love working with a customer for life. And like, what a gift that is to be able to help your community that way.
And it's your online resume, I mean, it's one of those things too, where, and not just for your clients, but for other agents. Like that's what I feel like is such a missing piece that people don't think about is you are competing in this market to get your buyer's offers accepted. If you're that grumpy, controversial person on social media that nobody wants to read your stuff or have to deal with your, conversation, whatever it is, like, and then you write an offer on their listing, they might have a bitter taste in their mouth because of your social media presence, like be the positive energy, like be the advocate for the things that you need to be an advocate for. And, just, I don't know, stand out above the crowd. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's something too. It's like, people talk about Andy and they see his success in the business so far, and they're always talking about it in such an awesome way. Like, I just love his stuff. I love how positive he is. I love, you know what I mean? And like, it's just like that, like, how can you create, like, what is your messaging and what are you trying to accomplish with this too? Like, look at it bigger picture than just, client base and deals, but also agents and, like you're saying, partners, vendors, whatever it is.
Yeah, so
absolutely. This could be a rabbit hole.
No, it sure can, but I think it's okay because honestly, it's, the past 2 years, it has taught us new skills and it has shown us new importance, I think. I've got two things on this. One, and I already forgot the second one. So I've got one thing on this. I was listening to somebody the other day. They just put it up. Guy's name's Justin Carter. He always has a ton of value. And he kind of broke down the different avenues in social media and not going as far as like YouTube and TikTok and whatnot. He really just kind of kept it to Facebook and Instagram and the different arms of each of those. So like, and purpose. So like story, feed, reel, and if there's another one, I'm forgetting it. And, but what he said or what he shared was basically like how to use each one of those different avenues and how to gain a following, but not just a following, but get people to trust you and like you engagement and gravitate to what you're doing. And the thing that really stuck out to me was, and there's a ton to it, but the two things that stuck out to me were your reel or your story is all about just gaining trust from whoever you're talking to. Doesn't matter if it's your first touch, if it's your 100th touch, if it's a family member and they know you, you're just pouring into trust. And this is me, this is my real life, this is what I'm going through, this is my right now. And then there's a bunch of other things. And then your feed is like, what is your message? Like, what is the hill you stand on, the hill you die on? Like, what kind of value are you bringing? And then all the other ones kind of support it and they hit it differently. And, maybe a 30-second reel has a different place in what you do versus a 60-second reel. Again, we are super rabbit hole social media right now. But again, I think it's important. And it's the world that we all live in. And if you're not living in it, it's a world you better start tapping into because that's where it's going.
Well, yeah. And I think that it's also I think it's like taking it to the next level from that conversation is how do you run your different platforms differently, because you might have a different audience on Instagram than you do on Facebook. And I think that's one of the hardest things is then all of a sudden it's like, okay, now I need to focus on this for Instagram and this for Facebook, but it's going to create a better engagement, with that audience too. And like where they're at.
Yeah, absolutely. And staying on top of all the algorithms. I mean, that's hard, and I've known partners who have paid a social media consultant and then it kind of just ends really badly. They spend a whole bunch of money. It doesn't sound like them. And so it is difficult, but I think carving out the time to do it and make it a priority is, hugely helpful in the business. Sure.
So speaking of the social media stuff, Beth, the reason I knew you and Kelsey, another reason I knew you guys were going to connect so well was your client retention, your like pop buys.
Oh, I've been watching it.
Goodness, how you stay active and front of mind with all your people is like speaking our language all day long. Talk to us a little bit about what you do, how long you've been doing it, things like that.
Yeah, great question. So I'll confess, I've been in the business, I think 7 or 8 years. And up until this year, I have not done a lot to stay connected with my database. I mean, it's shameful, it's horrible, but that's my confession. And I guess I'll say up until like a year ago is when I really started with the pop buys. But yeah, I just decided, you know what, it's time. Like these people need to know that I'm still thinking about them, that I care about them, that I want to know how the house is. So I started, just doing like a little something every once in a while. So like Valentine's Day, it was just like a little bag of chocolates and it just said like, it's sweet to have you as a client or something like that. And I have, an amazing marketing helper who helps me deliver them. She's the best. I wish I
That's
could
awesome.
clone her. Yeah. She's super great. She even keeps like a thing of dog treats in her car in case somebody's dog, is kind of like, oh, I don't know who this person is pulling in our driveway. So she has,
that's awesome.
Good move. I like
super
it.
thoughtful on her part. Like I love that from her. But yeah, it's not all my clients who get something, it's kind of a list of like 20 or 30. So it's manageable, every couple months. So we did, Christmas, obviously, and then you do Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, whatever the occasion is. And to be honest, they're kind of cheesy, sometimes they're cheesy.
Which is great. I love the cheese.
I think cheesy works. Like, just think about if you were to get something dropped off on your doorstep with like a little card and a little saying, hey, I'm thinking about you on this holiday. Hope you're doing well. Like, I love that. I think that's so fun. So that's been something I really try hard to do. Another like tip or trick for me to keep in touch with my sphere is I'm super organized with my phone. So any piece of info about a client I can save to my phone, mailing address, birthday, anniversary, like, house anniversary, those sorts of things. So those things are popping up on my calendar. And it's just a reminder, that way you don't forget about that person who you might have closed 4 years ago, right? And if you, are looking at your calendar and you see their birthday and you make an effort to reach out to them on their birthday, I think that means a lot.
Definitely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you do that so you say your database, so it's actually your clients, like your buyers that you work with?
Yeah.
Because I think that's a lot different than what we see. A lot of lenders focus on the agents being their clients as opposed to the actual buyers. But I feel like there's a whole nother layer of referral and repeat business if you just tap into the buyer, themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do some to referral partners as well. I'll mix that in. But it's a great point because to me, it's as a lender who, you mainly do get leads from a real estate partner, right? That's just the reality. For me, I feel like it's almost my responsibility to any of my agents to keep in touch with our mutual clients because that way it's keeping one of us top of mind, right?
And you're always going to push them back to that agent when they are ready.
Exactly. Yeah. Or if, it was a client who maybe just came to me with a different agent that I didn't work with and, maybe they didn't have a great experience or what have you, when they come back, if they say, we're ready to move on from this last agent we worked with, who do you know? I mean, amazing, right? That's the dream for someone in my position to be able to refer out to my, the right fit of referral partner that I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
definitely.
awesome.
Yeah.
Have you seen, since you've been doing it consistently now for a year or so, have you seen, and I know these things are hard to track as far as like, did this come because of the pop buys, or something like that. But I guess what's the reaction been from your clients? Do they reach out to you and thank you for it? Do they are they excited about it? Do they say anything at all?
Yeah, totally. A lot of them, they do reach out and a lot of them, it's super sweet. The younger ones are tagging me on social, which that's amazing, right?
Yeah,
because we just
sure.
talked about how important social is. So that's super, super sweet when they do that. And I have found that I actually give them a heads up that they're going to get something. So that gives me a good excuse to reach out no matter what and just text, if I have a couple who I'm working with, I like to do like a group text, going back to the phone being super organized. So you can always refer back to that text message. Hey, so-and-so, John and Jane Byer, whomever it is, I'm going to have something, dropped off to you. I hope you love it. Any questions I can help you with, hope you're still loving the house. Right. So you have the excuse to reach out, they see it show up. And so it kind of primes them to be expecting something and be excited for it.
Right.
So, yeah.
No, that's awesome for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like the pop by thing has been Kelsey's cheesy pop buys, and not in a bad way, have been Kelsey's bread and butter for the past how many years?
Yeah.
And shoot, before I even was doing this, I would go out and either go with her or drop some off.
Yeah, and it's something that I implemented in my business right away from the beginning. And of course, as you get busier, those are the things that, fall off, that get put on the back burner. And, it's hard to maintain sometimes, but just knowing that it's such an important part of your business and such a I guess, beneficial layer, for you and the referral based business world, like we don't do cold leads, we don't do paid leads or anything like that. So for us, like I will pay and I will do this and spend the time to do this to make sure that, that is our marketing, money in a sense. And we just in the past couple of months have upped ours even further to doing more of the mailings too. So I've always done, like, we do sports calendars every quarter that have just our business card on it. It goes on
fun.
their fridge.
Yeah.
People love them. Like, I remember
Yeah.
being like, no one's going to like this. Like, they're going to be like, why did you just send me a sports calendar? They love them. Like, they
Yeah.
ask me, hey, when are you going to send that out? Because it just goes in their fridge. It's for, Indians, Browns, whatever.
The Guardians, excuse me.
I'm
We're
sorry.
in the age
Yeah,
of the Guardians.
The Guardians of the land.
That's it.
Yeah, right. I have to change that in my head. So, but they love that. So I've always done that, but then adding in another layer of basically it's not a pop by, but it's the pop by kind of theme, but in a mailer form. So, for us, it's like, yeah, we're touching on maybe 12 to 15 people, once a month for the pop buys, but then everyone else is still getting something else in their mail too. And I did that for the first time we did it for Christmas, and what else did I do it for recently? Did it for Christmas, but I just did it for Valentine's Day, where like I hit everyone for Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
And it was super cheesy. It was like, you're the sweetest part of our business or whatever it is. And some of them got the card, and then they also got the pop by. And one girl, like, she sent us, or she posted again on Facebook and Instagram and tagged us in it. And she was awesome. She was like, don't walk to them, run to them. I'm telling you, run to them and go buy a house with them. And I was like, you're awesome. But like those kinds of things, it's like, you can't pay for that,
No.
like it's so important. So.
And people know that it's genuine, and it's so like, if you've ever done the paid leads or the Zillow or what have you, I mean, some people do well with it and that's great. But I've always noticed that business feels harder. It feels like there's more friction. There's not that built-in trust.
For sure. 100%.
If we can just love on the people that we love and they love us back, and then we meet the people that they love and help them, that's the dream.
Yeah,
it's so much easier.
We took it a step further even, and I'm sure a bunch of people did, right at the first onset of COVID, we did, I think we picked 5 families that we knew had like, no,
more than that.
More?
Yeah.
Okay. We picked an undisclosed amount of people, and we bought them like pizza kits from the grocery store and like dropped them off.
We did it for families.
I'll let Kelsey talk about it because I just bought the things. She had the idea.
Yeah. No, it was like we did this like big bag, is like a big like meal kit bag basically, but it was for like specifically for the ones that I knew had a lot of kids at home who were also trying to work from home, or teachers who had kids at home, like the ones that were, beating their head against the wall, losing their minds. And also just like financially, like I feel like everything was so unsure at that time. It's like, if I just can buy them a meal, and like literally it was just a pizza kit, like a couple of the like pre-made, like pizza, whatever crust, and then all the different ingredients. And then it was also like an activity for them to do together. And we put some movie candy in it, like, hey, like pizza and a movie, and then if they had kids that were younger, like we did a couple of like kids activities in it. Just something to kind of give the parents a break, I mean, people loved it. Like, loved it, and I think we did like 15, I think is what it was. Cause I remember being like, wow, this is a lot. I didn't realize how much this was really going to be. But the, reception to that was awesome. I think it's just the human part of you, like you've got to stay human and not treat everything like it's so business, and make sure that you keep that human connection with people. So.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And like on my side, things can so easily get into like numbers all day long, right?
Yeah.
And I come from a marketing background. That's what I was doing before I got into mortgage. And so I have to feed that side of me, that creative outlet that's like, okay, I got to step away from the 3 monitors and my tax, reviewing tax returns and all of that stuff to find this income. And like, let's do something fun for our people.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's not just clients. It's not just people we work with. It's like, hey, we have friends too. They're just people that aren't even involved in real estate. They're just, we want to like give
we have our
them.
honorary clients that aren't even clients yet. Like they've owned their home since before I was in the business, and they're also like great referral partners. Like they have always, put our name out there and everything, but like, they're just like honorary, like they get invited to our past client events and stuff. I'm like, I know you're not a client yet, but you will be someday. So
exactly. And that's great because they see what you can do. They see how enthusiastic you are. If it's my friends, like, of course, I'm on the West Coast. We do wine tasting. That's our thing. So if y'all want to come on out sometime and do that, right?
I'll book my ticket here 100%. After this call. Yeah, no problem.
But like,
I guess our ticket, I should, right.
Yeah. Everybody's welcome, all of them. But, if I'm out wine tasting with my friends, I try really hard to be focused. But of course, it's a Saturday or Sunday afternoon, and they might see me working. I just have to take 10 minutes to take a call, but it's like they can see that dedication, because it's like, I know it's the weekend, real estate happens on the weekend. So let's be on the ball.
Right.
So,
For sure.
yeah.
I think, man, that plays perfectly into where I wanted to go next. But before I get there, I did want to talk about this thing before we go that route. Beth, this is something we talked about on a call a couple days ago, and I want to give you space. And Kelsey and I even talked about it last night. So I kind of want to kick this around a little bit. Is lenders outside of a local market and how that works, and can it work? Does it work? Is it happening? Experiences on both sides, like on your side as being a lender and on Kelsey's side as seeing offers come through for buyers. So
yeah, super great question. And that's on my mind too, because I'm kicking it around. I'm like, okay, I'm born and raised in Ohio. I love Ohio. I love, just Ohio born and bred people. Like that's, where I come from. And I think a lot of my, my work ethic and my humility comes from being born and raised there. So I love that. And, in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm on the West Coast. I'm a couple time zones away. Can I make it work? And I asked you that question, Andy. I mean, in my experience, of course, local is always better. It's a very small industry, right? We all tend to know one another, the players. So, if somebody from across the country enters the picture and is trying to make a go of it, yeah, I mean, there might be some reservations. So, in my world, what I like to do is I have a couple agents that I work with, like, Bay Area, LA type agents. And so I just, I pick up the phone and I call, and I say, hey, I know what I'm doing. I've been licensed here. I know how the fees work. I know how the taxes work. Like you should not have any issues or, reservations about me. And if they don't feel good with that, it's like, listen, you can call or text me anytime. Like, I'm not joking when I say that. I don't have kids. So just don't worry.
Right.
I like to work. I work a lot. And so that kind of smooths the conversation and gets them feeling more comfortable.
For sure.
But, it's definitely an interesting question. As with COVID, some people have moved out of state. I have a colleague who was in Arizona and moved to the Portland area, and his business has been just fine. Some of his referral partners don't even know that he moved. So it's kind of like an interesting thing. And like, yeah, Kelsey, I would love to hear your thoughts about like how that looks and what, where you see that going in the future.
Yeah. So we talked about it last night because he went over some of the questions that he had kind of ready to go. And I was like, my initial reaction is no, it can't work because I'm always preaching local, trusted lenders. And that is something that I am definitely picky about that when I'm looking at offers, because we all know that if it's the wrong lender on the other side, that can kill your deal, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the offer price is if the deal doesn't close. So that's something that I've been really protective of. And then I started thinking about it more and I was like, but that's just a cop out. Like, can it actually work if you do it the right way? And I think what it comes down to is, I think that you can't control the scenario every time, but I think that, when it's coming from an agent, the agent is vouching for the lender versus the buyer is vouching for the lender, because I love buyers. They don't know what we know in the industry,
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that when it's, say it were Andy writing an offer and he's using one of your pre-approvals, for a client who's in Ohio, but it's obviously your pre-approval from out of the state. I think that what that is just reaching out to that agent and saying, hey, I know this is an out of state, pre-approval letter. I just want you to know this is actually one of my preferred lenders that I grew up with. She's from Ohio and we've stayed connected, and she's a fantastic lender out in a different state, and I think that it's just however you're going to, structure that conversation, I guess. And then on the flip side too, from you, obviously reaching out to that listing agent is also huge.
Mm-hmm.
I think that just those two things combined, having the agent vouch for the lender and then having the lender also reach out and make that personal touch. I think that those two things combined, like me as a listing agent, I'd be like, okay, I can't say no to that. You know what I mean? Like I can't find a reason to not do that. And especially because, I think it's obviously a little different for you. You are from Ohio, it's different than just a random California buyer that we've never, worked with and they have no connection to Ohio. Like it's just different. But I think it takes a little bit of extra work on the front end, and then you might become one of those players, like I think that that's where it's like you do enough business and get your name out there and all of a sudden you're a trusted person, because it is a small world. Like there's not, I mean, it's really a lot of the same agents doing the bulk of the business,
Mm-hmm.
so.
Yeah, absolutely.
it kind of comes down to that it's a global neighborhood, right? And in our world, like, man, it is just shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. Employers outside of this industry are no longer caring necessarily where you're working from, as long as the work's getting done. Like, as long as we're getting a high level of service on both sides, honestly, that's really all that matters, and being more open to different ways of work for everyone listening. I hope that kind of is a light bulb, that you don't need to be constrained to your local market, your neighborhood, your office, the people that you're always working with. And not that they're not great at what they do, but there are other options, and there are other ways to do things. And just because you've been doing it for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, this same way, that's not the only way. Like, there's so many different ways to do what we do. And that's the exciting part. And that's what gets me excited to get out of bed and to, jump back in for the next day. So I'm glad that we had a chance to do that. Because the first time that question came up maybe a week ago, is like, I don't know where it's gonna go.
Yeah. And like, nobody knows. And it, to be clear, it's not like just picking some random Joe Schmo, right, from across the country. It's like, you've got to have that connection. They have to be on par with your, top 3 local lenders or what have you, or, similar communication styles. So it's like, but yeah, I think like the lesson, Andy, is like, don't let that be a barrier. If we can hit all these other metrics, and that they're going to be responsive and on the ball, like, it's like you said, people are doing things from all over the place. Like, it's interesting where COVID has like pared down the human connections, but then again, going back to social media and the internet, like, we've kind of connected in different ways over the last 2 years. So
right, for sure.
100%. For me, I feel like we could literally talk all day and have a good old time and cover a lot of ground. I've got one more that I want to throw out there, and this is always exciting. Kelsey's over there in the hot seat, like, I know. What the heck is he going to say next? I don't even know where we're going. All right, so the last one you mentioned, and we say it all the time, like, feel free, call me, text me, shoot me an email, whatever you need to do at any time. So the question then becomes, is personal business balance? What is balance? I know that balance isn't a real thing, but it is something that everyone talks about. I'm interested because we almost got there in our conversation the other day, but I want to finish the conversation on this recorded version.
Ooh, so talk about putting me in the hot seat, Andy.
That's fine. I can go
really
first
enjoying
if you
this.
want. It's okay. I'm happy to go
love
first.
This. No, this is great. Yeah. Tell me, how do you do it?
Shut up. So, I mean, we don't have any balance whatsoever. I mean, between Kelsey and I I shouldn't say it as point blank as that, because we do, and we've definitely put in boundaries. Me coming into the business almost 2 years ago, I didn't. I was just like, oh, you need me to go here? Oh, you need me to drive across town in an hour and a half? No problem. I'm happy to spend my whole day just ping-ponging across Northeast Ohio. And anymore, through many, many conversations and coaches and this and that, like, no, you've got to set boundaries. And if it doesn't work for you in that certain timeline, but that's the only time that the client can make it happen, then find another option. Like, that's okay. Get someone else to show the house, or, just be creative, I guess, is kind of what it comes down to. But you got to have some non-negotiables. And again, this can be a whole separate call. This can be a whole separate topic. This can honestly be a training series. But
a whole different podcast.
Oh my God, right? It's having things that you're committed to and sticking to it. And allowing yourself freedom to go out and do what you actually want to do, because, time's not going to just sit around and wait for you to, like, gone are the days of wait till you're 55 or 60, retire, then go enjoy it. Like, that's not real. Like, this is not the world we live in. You're not going to go off and live on a pension. Like, so we've got to find time to balance, and balance can be 5 straight days of working all waking hours, but then you got to refill your cup. And I think that's the way that we approach it. And honestly, like, her and I both in the business, running groups, whatnot, doing things like this, having in real time, almost 17-month-old running around the house, like, it's like you plate spinning, juggling and everything. So that's kind of how we do it.
Yeah. I mean, and I love that. And like, for me, early in the business, I was not good at balance. I just was not, because I had to prove myself, and I worked so hard, and I was at the office till 9. And yeah, you still have days like that. I think I posted the other day, it was like 8:30, 40 something. And I was at my home office, but still working full tilt. But for me, what I've learned is like when you can get that call, when you can answer that text right away from the referral partner or the client, do it. Do not put it off. Because if you do that enough times, you're going to earn yourself some grace, and a little bit of like, and so now my referral partners know if we have world-class hiking. See, I'm just selling Portland, you guys, left and right. Wine
I
tasting,
know.
hiking.
I've always said I want to go to Portland.
I know. Come on out. It's great. But, sometimes when you go hiking and you have a really awesome hike, it means that you're going to be out of reception for 2, 3, 4 hours. So if I do that, I just, if I know I have referral partners who are going to be making offers with certain common clients, I'll just text and say, hey, I'm out of pocket. I'm hiking the gorge. You can appreciate it. So beautiful. I'll be back online at 2 p.m. and ready to help you then. Right. So just finding the people that you love working with, right? I mean, the right people to work with, clients, referral partners, whoever, they're not going to hold it against you that you did some self-care, hung out with your kid, took a hike, had to go wine tasting with your friends, whatever it is, they're going to understand and they're going to be glad for you that you did that, and they'll give you some grace. So I think that's kind of been how I've done it, is work really hard in the beginning. And then, you establish those relationships and those people know that you will call them back and you will communicate with them. It's super important.
I think that you really hit it. Like the fact that when you can, you do still answer right away. Like I think that that's a really important part of it too, is that you don't just all of a sudden stop doing those things. Like your work ethic, when you're on, you're still 100% on, and then you're able to check out. And I think something else that like I've been doing, so I think we've been in the business for almost the same amount of time. So 7 years almost for me. And in the beginning, same thing, like working, all hours of the day, all weekend, just burning the candle at both ends. And, easy to get to a burnout with that, when you're practicing your business like that. And so, you eventually have to figure out, what are those boundaries and how do you set those different things? And I think for us, it's the same thing that is for you guys. It's, you have a buyer that wants to see a house and, it's gonna be sold by tomorrow. So you have to fit them in there today. And, what does that look like? It's like, okay, so not even just, okay, I know I have to do it today. Fine. But what are my times that I can do it, and having those, you start to control your schedule better, like that's something that I had to teach Andy because he was ping ponging all over. I'm like, but why are you doing it at this time? Like, that's the worst time for us of the entire day. And they said they were available all day. Why did you do that? And so it's like,
and my answer, because I feel like the two of you and people listening to this can relate to this. My answer was because I can. Like,
you can.
We were at a
Doesn't
point
mean
in
you
life
have to.
where I can.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. But it took me a really long time to be okay with that, because it was like, well, I am here to help them. And if helping them is conforming to their schedule, okay, fine. Now me knows that doesn't scale. That's ridiculous. I'm going to go crazy.
You're going to go crazy. And that's where you get that burnout, because you're just literally on call 24/7 and you're never even able to be organized and get your stuff done that you need to get done at your office, and your paperwork and things. And so I think that's, part of it too, is just like, setting those expectations of, when you can control it, these are the times that I'm available to do these things, and I think the other thing too is like being okay with shutting down. I think I still struggle with that, like so badly. Like I will be home and I'll be saying that I'm not working, but like I have this internal like guilt and struggle that I'm not like paying attention to things, and I'm not, oh my gosh, like you got to just let it go. Like I'm telling myself this, you got to just let it go. It's one of the hardest things, but no, I mean, I think that there's a level of balance that you can achieve, but it's not necessarily like, it's never going to feel like you're just in control of your life. It's going to feel like you're controlling, bits and pieces to be able to refill your own bucket when you need to. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And for me, it's sometimes saying no to things. Like I'm a notorious, I put the event on the calendar, and I don't even mean like an event that I have to show up to, but it's just a reminder to myself. It's like, signing up for a certain like program that I was kicking the tires. I'd gone to a presentation like, oh, this is really going to help present, loan options to your clients and all of that. And, so it's been on my calendar for every Saturday for the past 6 weeks. I've just kept moving it out. And it's like, okay, reality check to myself. Why do I keep pushing it out? Is it really that important to me? Is it worth the mental space for me to move it from this Saturday to next Saturday and then not do it again.
Right.
So it's like, kind of being honest with like, okay, I need to narrow down. I can't do everything. What are the things that excite me? Let's run towards those. And of course it doesn't work perfectly. There's things we all have to do that we aren't excited about.
Definitely.
But,
Yep.
don't, I guess, and again, Kelsey, like you said, telling myself, don't let those things take up mental space because we only have so much. So,
right. For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was the perfect thing to end on. I feel really good about that. Beth, we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. For the people that want to connect with you, tell them where do they find you in social spaces?
Yeah, absolutely. So Instagram's a good one, Mortgages by Beth. And then I'm also on Facebook. So again, it's Beth Imhoff Academy Mortgage, based in the Portland metro area, but licensed in a couple states on the West Coast and perhaps maybe Ohio again. I've had that license in the past and didn't market it properly, didn't do much with it. So we'll see.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Well, again, thank you so much. This was an awesome conversation and we definitely need to do it again soon.
Yeah. Yes, thanks, Beth.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. See ya.